This is Fogo, part of Cape Verde in the Atlantic. In late 2014, its lone volcano erupted. Everyone was safe, but a subsequent study calculated that 81% of the houses in the lava's path were totally destroyed. And it's because of real science like that, field reports and simulations conducted by volcanologists, that we can answer this important question. What would happen if the floor was actually lava? Most of the time, total death and destruction, but you might be surprised that you have a chance. We'll explain. Volcanoes may seem remote to many of you, I know they do to me, but roughly 22 million people currently live within 5 kilometers of one. Historically, that's not the safest place to be. Over 200,000 souls have fallen victim to volcanoes since the late 1700s, but it might surprise you that the majority of deaths come from starvation, tsunami, and something called pyroclastic flow, which is a high-speed ash and gas cloud ejected during an eruption. Not on the list, lava. Surprise! So does that mean that this on your floor would be tolerable? I asked Jeff Carson, a professor at Syracuse University who actually makes molten rock in his lab, what a person should do if the floor were suddenly lava, and he said,
Prayer would be a good start, there's not much you're going to be able to do to get away from it.
Because, and this can't be stressed enough, lava is hot. We're assuming for this hypothetical that it's fresh out of a volcano, a sizzling 2100 degrees Fahrenheit. The crematorium that turns your body into ashes? Oh, that's only 1800 degrees. That means lava on your floor would instantaneously ignite anything it touches that's made of wood, fabric, paper, or plant. It's not looking great for the sofa you've taken refuge on, but it's also hot enough to completely melt plastics and some soft metals. Even steel, which has a relatively high melting point, can soften at a far lower temperature than lava's. That's to say nothing of the explosions that might occur. Gas tanks close to lava can punch a hole in the wall. But it's not just the stuff. If the floor were lava, the walls and ceilings might soon be in trouble too.
Those high temperatures are very bad for building materials. You can see the video from the 2018 Kilauea eruption.
But it's true that some building materials like concrete can actually withstand lava's heat without melting. On Fogo, the island from before, scientists noticed that concrete walls, sometimes even entire concrete structures, survive just buried in cooled volcanic rock. But just because it doesn't burn or melt doesn't mean it will be undamaged. Like everything in this story, it depends on the size of the object and the amount of lava bringing heat over and past it. Water within porous substances like concrete can evaporate and expand if heated enough, leaving something fractured and even crumbly. The same Fogo researchers documented large diagonal cracks in homes that were otherwise standing. So there isn't much of your home that'll make it out, with a few exceptions.
There are houses that burned up and they're still stoves, automobiles, they're still recognizable.
And of course, fire-resistant and highly poisonous asbestos has been seen floating away unscathed out of older houses. Unfortunately, you the human almost certainly would not. So let's say you fell in, but even saying that is a little weird because despite what the Lord of the Rings told you, you might not actually get in the lava. Remember that even though it looks like a liquid, lava is molten rock, meaning it's incredibly dense and viscous, especially compared to us. So in a fall from a low height onto static lava, you'd probably remain on the surface. If you were lucky, maybe you break your neck and avoid some of the other upcoming deaths. Because really, it's the heat that's going to make it so very unpleasant. It might scorch your lungs and cause internal organ failure. It might boil the water in your body and cause you to melt. It might even just light you on fire. But even holding up on a fire-resistant piece of furniture may not be enough because lava radiates a huge amount of heat.
You really can't get within more than 6 feet before you're really getting cooked.
Plus, no matter where you are, breathing would be a problem, not just because of oxygen depletion, but because of toxic volcanic gases like sulfur dioxide. Even tiny splatters of lava might hurt you, but not necessarily because they're hot. In 2018 in Hawaii, a man standing on his third-floor balcony had his leg shattered by one, because such splatters can weigh as much as a refrigerator. And that's just our magic scenario, where the lava just appears on the floor and sits there. But real lava is arguably more destructive because it moves, sometimes at speeds of up to 6 miles per hour. And as the outer edge is exposed to air, it forms a crust, which the hot lava behind it pushes forward, sort of like nature's bulldozer. It can knock over structures in addition to burning them down. And flowing lava would do weird things to you too. Imagine there's an apple that becomes surrounded by lava. The lava cooks the apple on the outside, but in turn the apple causes the lava to cool down and solidify. But as it turns out, cooled lava is actually a good insulator for the rest of the apple.
So if you open that up later, the outside of that apple, of course, is torched, but the inside, completely normal, edible, unaffected.
So if you were somehow pulled into and under the lava, which is more likely when it's moving, not only would you be a perfect medium rare with a sear, but there might be a U-shaped cavity in the hardened rock, as happened with an ancient rhino in Washington state. So how do you get out of this predicament? Lest you think this is impossible, know that in 2007 a Maasai man fell into a volcano and pulled himself out. His trick? The lava was on the cooler side. Now, if you're anything like me, your first instinct might be to go for water, but water isn't necessarily your savior. For instance, a large amount of lava would instantaneously boil a small body of water. If you were in a pool with it, you'd be cooked alive. And if that conversion to steam happens too quickly, it's actually explosive. Rocky shrapnel has been known to fly up to 820 feet when lava meets ocean water. During a 1974 eruption of the Eldfell volcano in Iceland, and boy was it a dramatic one, firefighters did build a protective, cooled lava wall around their harbor using seawater, but they had high-pressure hoses, pumping ships, and 1.5 billion gallons to play with, so your garden hose ain't gonna cut it either. But here's the thing about a shallow, sedentary pool of lava. With time, it's going to cool on its own with exposure to air.
5 minutes, a crust forms on top and lava changes from incandescent orange to black, and you could conceivably walk on it if you had well-insulated hiking boots.
So assuming you had furniture made of a non-melting metal like tungsten to keep you above the fire pit, gear to deflect the extreme radiant heat, and a breathing apparatus to keep you supplied with air, you could take advantage of the fact that lava cools quickly and is a good insulator, and just walk away while the floor is actually lava. So, you know, it's theoretically possible, I guess, but for your sake, I hope your floor is never ever lava. Unless it looks like this. Stay out of volcanoes, friends.